Monday.com started as a project management tool, but has since evolved to have its own dedicated CRM offering. In this video, we're going to review Monday CRM, how it benefits from its flexible boards and views, the core sales features it has, both its pros and cons, automations, pricing, and more. Hi, I'm Dan Lehman from SoftwareFinds.com, where we help your business find the software that works the best for you. I run an automation consultancy, and every year we integrate hundreds of different systems, so we want to take that knowledge to help you decide the best systems that work for your business. Let's dive into Monday CRM. Okay, so we're logged into Monday CRM. You'll notice the logo in the upper left-hand corner. This is important just in case you've ever done a trial or ever used the core Monday Work Management or Monday Work OS system. It's a different product. So while these two feel very similar, you're going to want to make sure that you're operating here inside of the CRM. Now, navigationally, we land on this homepage. I don't find it particularly useful, but most of the time we're going to be operating out of dashboards or out of our individual boards. Down the left-hand side, you can see a smattering of sales features. It doesn't quite make sense from a navigational standpoint to me. We have quotes and invoices right next to virtual events. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the main area we're paying attention to navigationally is down here where we have a list of our different boards. The most important ones are going to be contacts, deals, leads, and accounts. So let's take a look. I'm going to open up my leads here, and you can see we've got just a couple sample leads that we can interact with. This data is already loaded into the system. Now, the real big advantage here for Monday is that you can configure pretty much everything that you look at. Now, you might think of this as an advantage or a disadvantage. Advantage because you can make this work your way. A lot of other CRMs, let's say you're in real estate, aren't going to allow you to create your own properties object, or you can't create the right fields that you need. With Monday, sky's pretty much the limit. So we have our leads board here, and I could add any kind of columns that I want. It's got some recommendations for certain columns that we might want as part of our lead record. But over here, we can click on more columns, and this is going to give us all of these different choices that if you've ever experienced Monday's work management tool, you've got access to a whole bunch of different column types that you can choose from. Some are going to be specialized for the CRM, but most of them are just going to be common data types that you would see anywhere else. And so there's a lot of different choices, AI things, linking to different boards, formulas, all of that. And we can change how our leads appear on the screen. We could add a filter. Maybe we want to say we only want to see leads of a certain status, and so we could only show those specific ones. Now, certain CRMs like Pipedrive have really capitalized on having a very visual Kanban-like view. You essentially have cards that you can drag between their statuses, and you can do that for leads and for deals. Well, we can do that, and we have even more options here inside of Monday. So I can click on this plus button to add a view, and I can choose from a number of them. I could choose from a calendar or a Kanban, different charts. Here we can click on Kanban, and with a single click of a button, now we've got that more visual view. With our cards, we can click and drag them between our different statuses here. And so sky is really the limit in terms of how you want this to appear. How do you want to actually manage your leads? Do you want to have that list of leads when you're working through them individually? And then if you're doing a deal review, you show the Kanban? I mean, here's where you really have a lot of options. Let's go ahead and open up one of our leads so we can see what that experience looks like. Now, here is kind of a specialized record view, for lack of a better word, where we can see all the information about one particular lead. I really like how this is a nice visual layout where we can see the different status, the different stage that they might be in. We can configure this. It's really easy then to be able to click through that to update it. Over here, you can see we've got all of our different columns or attributes. That information runs down the right-hand side. In the center area, we've got where we can have our activities. I'm going to actually flip over to a contact where I've got some more information to show you that in a second. But up at the top, you can see we've got our overview. We also have updates. Updates you can think of as kind of a live stream, a chat essentially between you and your colleagues. So if you're doing deal review or you want to ask the status of something, this is where you could use an @ symbol and be able to tag different people on your team to have conversations back and forth with them. I don't love how this screen is just kind of in isolation of the overview screen. It seems kind of silly to have to get out of the data flow to be able to do that. Here we've got some additional options to look at our activity log, and we can add our own tabs across the screen depending on what kinds of views that we want to see. I'm going to quickly jump into a contact here. We'll expand this. It's going to look very similar to the previous screen that we're on, but just to show you the email and activity functionality. So here is where we can see an extended history of all the interactions with our prospect, with our lead, or with our contacts. I mean, really, we can see this with most of the different views of our different boards here in the CRM. So I'm looking at different emails. Now, these emails, we've got a few different ways to track this. So there's the ability to sync this with your email account if you're using Gmail or Outlook. That's what I did in this case. So automatically, as I'm emailing back and forth from my Gmail, it's logging all of those emails automatically against the contact record itself or against the lead record. Depending on how I'm doing this, it's showing the context of that actual conversation. And it's not just emails that we have access to inside of this feed. We can add different activities. So we have a schedule meeting capability. This is going to be kind of like Calendly type functionality. So I've got my schedule automatically loaded in. Again, this is because I'm using Google Calendar. It's syncing back and forth. And I can use this then to schedule meetings with my prospects. We can schedule it directly here. And then those meetings are going to show here as activities in this nice activity feed. Some additional options, you can log meetings and put some notes about calls. You can add your own manual notes or even add your own custom activities. Now we have this cool column here for activities timeline, and I really like the idea of it showing how frequently we have different points of contact with our prospects. But if I hover over it, what's kind of funky to me is that it shows, hey, on this date, you had these incoming emails, but I can't do anything with that. It doesn't actually let me click to that email to open it up. So it doesn't feel quite as useful as it really should be. Now, I mentioned that there are a few different ways to interact with email. One of them is to set up that automatic sync. That's really helpful. But another thing that we can do, here I'm back on my lead record, is we can click this button to create a new email. And this is going to allow us to email directly from Monday. So we don't have to be shifting back and forth from the CRM to our communication tools. Instead, we can live here inside of Monday. Now, a couple nice features about emailing from Monday. We can turn on email tracking to see if an email was opened and how many times it was opened. We can also use different templates that we create. So we can add our own templates, which tap into the different columns. And so kind of that mail merge functionality, if we want to choose different fields like, hey, first name, blah, 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 insert information about that, just to make it so much easier to be able to contact our leads without having to spend all the time writing that up. There is an AI assistant here as well, so you don't have to have a separate subscription to ChatGPT or something else if you need help in crafting that email. Another very useful email feature that we have is the ability to mass email our leads. So I can click on multiple different leads, and you'll see we've got this option to mass email. This is going to feel very similar to if we were just sending one email. And this is going to send each person their own individual email. It's not BCCing everybody. They're each going to get their own individual copy. Now, this feature is helpful. You can send up to 500 of these mass emails at a time, but you also have to question a little bit if this is the right email infrastructure that you want if you're doing a lot of outbound. For example, Monday's not doing a lot here for domain reputation protection. A lot of other services that you have, you'll spin up multiple inboxes and you'll rotate between them. Because if people are marking this as spam, then you're kind of sunk. So here, if you're sending out mass emails all the time, I wouldn't plan on super high deliverability. What it doesn't have is email marketing functionality. So if you're using a tool like MailChimp today, where you want to send nicely formatted emails to people on a list, this is not the right tool for that. Another way of handling email is to create a sequence. This is a pretty useful tool in Monday that's different from Monday's automations. So these sequences let you send automated emails, or essentially you can create tasks for yourself to remind you to do different things. At this point, it doesn't have super robust functionality. It's not letting you automatically make a connection to someone on LinkedIn. It's not reaching out and integrating to other services. It's either, hey, email or add a task for yourself. Now, in the rules and notifications, you do have some different options here. When do you want to send this? Do you have a certain window you want it sent in? When do you want to remove people from a sequence? So maybe if they reply to you, then you want to take them out of that sequence, and then maybe you want to enroll them in a new sequence. So there's not really any branching logic to this. It's all pretty linear, but you can have logic to say, okay, now they're out of a sequence, and now add them into a new sequence. So there is the ability to say kind of use automations and sequences together a little bit, but it's not very sophisticated logic that we have inside of the sequences. So in addition to enrolling a lead into a sequence via an automation, you can also do it manually if you want to click on that lead, and you can simply add them to an existing sequence. This next feature drives me absolutely bonkers. I have a bone to pick with whoever is the product manager of the CRM here at Monday. And to be honest, this is difficult when you have this platform that can do anything and make anything that you want it to possibly do, and then you try to combine it with an opinionated CRM. It's really hard to balance that. So the feature that I want to talk about is lead qualification. So there's a few different ways that lead qualification typically occurs inside of a CRM. So if you're using a CRM like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, you start with a lead, and then when that lead is qualified, it automatically creates a contact, a deal, and an account for you. And that structure usually works out because leads could be imported from a CSV, it could be a trade show, it could be email marketing that you're doing. And you have this lead, and so you create a contact, it's got their name and email address and phone number. You create an account or organization, it's got the name of the company, and then you've got the deal. Maybe it's a deal value and what services or products they're interested in. Now, a CRM like Pipedrive has a different approach. When you have a lead, it automatically creates a contact or person record for you. And then it automatically creates the account or organization record for you. So then when you create a deal, when you convert that lead to a deal, it just connects to the existing contact and organization that are already in the system. So those are two different common ways to architect this. But let me show you how Monday chose to do this. So you'll notice I'm on my leads board here, and we have this button to move to contacts. Now, first of all, I'm not really sure what that means. You'd think the button would say qualify the lead or something like that. So let's go ahead for a second and actually open up one of our leads. And again, we have our different stages up at the top, and we have buttons here to say qualified or unqualified. So you're like, aha, well, this must do it. It must have the logic that we need. Let's go ahead and qualify this. So I press qualified, and we get this cool, yay, we made money animation. And I love the animation. That's super awesome. So what does this do? Well, all it does is change our status to the end status. That's all it does. It didn't actually create any different records for us. No. That's where we have the Move to Contacts button. And this isn't some automation I created. This is what Monday has out of the box if we're trying to do lead qualification. So just so I don't mess up my own demo data, I'm going to add a new lead here. And let's say, okay, we've got our information. Pretend I had filled out these additional fields, and I want to move to contacts. Okay, let's click it. Let's see what happens. Move to contacts. Yay, check mark. And automation is running. And automation moved an item to another board. What happened to my lead? Where did that go? Is it just in here somewhere? It's not. It's deleted. And what this did was it took our lead, it deleted our lead, it went to contacts, and then now I have a contact that was created. And yes, we can map over some of those fields that we have from the lead to the contact. But how messy is this? It didn't create a deal for us, so we just qualified a lead, and it didn't create a new deal. It didn't create an account for us. All it did was create a contact and delete our old lead. So if you're in sales management, you already see the problem here. If we delete that lead, how are we possibly going to report on that or measure it to see what our conversions are like? How are we going to know at what stage of our pipeline we won or lost that lead because that lead no longer exists? And so if I go into my automations, yes, this is configurable, just like everything else in Monday. But here we have when create a contact clicked, move items to contacts. This isn't really baked in business logic. This is just like, hey, here's an automation that does a thing. Go make your own automation to do a thing. And so here's the crux of the situation. If you're someone who's like, yeah, I want to be able to create my own custom lead qualification process because our business operates in a unique way, then Monday is going to be a great fit because you can do exactly that. You can create your own business logic. But if you were comparing Monday's CRM to other off-the-shelf CRMs, you'd expect that there's more business logic that just works automatically right off the shelf. Okay, soapbox moment over. Let's take a look at some additional features. So one feature I like here, I'm on my contacts board, is if we're adding a contact and we put in their email address, then there's an automation in the background that's running, and it's going to automatically associate the correct account with it. So we already had an automation helpers account created, and it knew the email domain was at automationhelpers.com. So then if we created a new contact item and it matched that email domain, it automatically associates it. So I really love that feature. Let me show you a cool business intelligence feature. I'm on my accounts, and let's say I'm looking up an account. This is going to look from a list, And I can simply select the account that I'm looking for. Now, when I choose that, that's going to automatically enrich this. And this isn't a paid add-on. This is automatically included. Let's go ahead and open up this item. And you can see it automatically pulled in the industry, the domain, the number of employees, the headquarters locations. So I don't know if there's other information that we can access, but even that by itself is pretty cool. Now, in sales management, if you're assigning tasks to your reps, or if you are a rep and you want to assign tasks to yourself, it's going to be helpful to have one unified area where you can see all of the different tasks. That here in Monday is called My Work. And if we click on this, the really nice part is that we can have these tasks or assignments come from multiple different boards. So we might have activities that are assigned to us. We might have tasks. We might have follow-up phone calls, anything. If we created our own custom boards, we could have those assigned to us and then see everything that we need to work on. Here's what's coming up today or this week or next week. And then you can check it off from there. You don't have to hunt between all of the different locations in the system. So this is a very prominent feature of the Work OS that's included in the CRM as well. Next, let's talk about sending a quote or an invoice. We can do this from a couple different boards. I happen to be on a contact. Let's say that I want to send a quote to that customer, to that contact. I can click on Create New, and then we've got different templates we can choose from, or we can create it by ourselves. We can create a one-off. But I created one, so let me click on this quote for widgets. And this is a decent little configurator. It's more powerful than some I've seen, even as upsell features in other CRMs. So for example, we've got some default settings. This is not going to show to our customer, by the way. This is just so that we can set the currency or the locale. We can set that by default. I've got some information about our brand and any signatures. We can tell it where to pull the data from, so it knows to pull from that contact that we have. And then we can start adding in items. And so one of the boards that it creates for us is for products and services. Here I could select that I have a red widget and I want to select a blue widget. And then the one part I don't like here is you'd think this would be editable in line if I want to change the quantity. Instead, I have to actually edit it here. I can change the quantity, not too difficult. We can save that. And then this is good to go. We can include any other options we can include for signatures or footer notes. And then we could preview this if we want to see what the document's going to look like. And we can save this. And now we have this quote in the context of our contact record. We can download it. We can edit it again if we need to, delete it, duplicate it. The one thing that feels a little bit silly to me here is that now that we have this quote and we have this nice configurator online, and Monday's really good at collaboration, you would think there would be this online portal where we could share a quote automatically. They could sign, get e-signature on that, and give it back to us. Now, Monday says, yes, you can do e-signature. What they really mean is you can download this as a PDF. And then once you've downloaded it as a PDF, you can have the customer use their signature capabilities on the PDF to sign it and give it back to you. I haven't seen anything where it's like, hey, yeah, you can just treat it like a DocuSign and then get a signature on it and get it back. Now, they do have different integrations, so I'm sure we could take this PDF and send it out via a different service, but this seems like just so close to being really, really useful. Yes, nice to get a PDF. I'd say this is good baseline here of what we can achieve, but I just really wish they'd go that extra step and actually bake that online functionality, have a little collaboration portal where we can send the invoices to, just to make that an easier experience for our clients. Reporting is a strength of Mondays. You can create your own charts. You can have dashboards where you're pulling data from multiple different boards. So maybe you're pulling information from leads and you're pulling information from deals, and you can show that in one spot. The other thing that I really like is that some of these widgets that we have, we can actually click and drill in and see that. So again, if you're doing it for executive level reporting, or you're doing it for deal management, or you want to track productivity of reps, then being able to actually click into that and see the details is really helpful. Next, let's take a look at what features we have inside of the mobile app. Now, one thing that's important to know is that the mobile app, there's just one Monday.com mobile app that you can find in the App Store or Play Store. There's not a dedicated app for the CRM, although you will get access to the CRM functionality, but there's just a single app that you're looking for. So from the app, I'm not in love with the home screen because here, yes, I can see my favorites and it's showing me the boards that I visited and my workspaces. but this is simply just too high level for me to look at. Same thing with I've got my work, which is convenient to look at any tasks that I might have assigned to me. But overall, I expect this to be more CRM-ish and not just generic here. Now, the interesting thing is when I actually click into my leads, for example, any one of the actual designated CRM boards, this is when my navigation changes. Now I'm seeing what I would expect to see, which is contacts, leads, deals, and accounts. And so I think the first screen is just an extra click. It's something that doesn't really need to be there, but now I'm in the area that I want to be. So if I'm on my leads and I wanted to give someone a call, let's say Steven here, I can press the icon to be able to call him. And you'll notice that I've got options here to call or copy or message. When I click to call, that's going to open up my own phone's dialer. And so I can just call him directly from my mobile app. It's not a VoIP solution. It's not calling from Monday. When that call is done and I go back into Monday, the thing that it does do is it triggers a call summary record to be created. So rather than me having to press the plus button and things like that, I now automatically have this data populated. It shows me the time that I made the call. It's got the date populated. It's got the name of the person populated. So this keeps it easier for me to actually enter this information. And given that I was just on a call, I'll probably want to leave a voice summary. So I can click this microphone icon. I chatted with Steven and we'll follow up next week. And so you can see that automatically creates that voice note for me. I can save it. And now no more manual work. We're just good to go. Now there is some functionality that I think is lacking. If I'm on a contact item or lead item here and I want to send a quote, I don't have a button just to send that and automatically send it to my customer. And so I think there's some things that could be improved, but overall the mobile app is pretty good. It loads quickly. I can access all my leads and information and I can easily communicate with them. Next, let's talk about how we can extend and really make this CRM our own. And this is a huge, huge strength of Mondays, that you can take what they have and you can change it and you can augment it. So there's a few different ways to do that. One thing that I mentioned before is we have the ability to add new boards. And so we have our out-of-the-box CRM boards, these core ones that have their own functionality with it. But we can also add our own custom boards. And so if there's additional information, again, an example that I would give is if you want this to be a real estate CRM and you want to be able to track properties, well, you can create your own board for properties without having to redo all of the functionality and call your deals properties and they don't have the right fields. Now you can just simply do that inside of Monday. We've talked briefly about their automation capabilities. That's what had our lead qualification process before, but it is pretty useful if we want to create our own automations. Essentially, we have triggers and we have actions. When this happens, and we've got a number of options. We can say when a status changes, when a new item is created, when a certain date arrives, or if we want to have some kind of recurring task, when we press a button, we've got lots of options to be able to kick off our automation. And so after we have our trigger and we have an action here, now we can update the items. We can change statuses. We can send notifications via Slack or an email. We've got AI functions that we can tap into. If I scroll down here, we can use AI directly within the platform. We can set times and dates and assignees and all of that. So it's a pretty strong automation platform. If you want to use the core capabilities inside of Monday, it's much more powerful than you'll see with other off-the-shelf CRM softwares that lack some of those automation capabilities, because Monday's been around for a while and they've really mastered that work management platform, and therefore the CRM gets to benefit from that as well. Now, in addition to automations, which are primarily within the platform, there's also integrations, which means we're connecting to other platforms. And so there's recommendations, things like Google Calendar, for example, and we can choose productivity tools. Now, this is, kind of opinionated in terms of some of the templates. You don't have tons of functionality, tons of options. You don't get to configure everything that you want. And so if you need things outside of this, then we've got a couple of options. One is that you could use make.com or Zapier or N8N and craft your own. But this is a pretty good library out of the box to be able to use. The other option that you have available to you is the Monday app marketplace. And within their marketplace, third-party companies can create their own tools and integrations and releases. Now, most of them are going to have paid plans associated with them, but there is a ton of momentum in the Monday ecosystem if you need some of that additional functionality. And if a Make or Zapier doesn't cut it for you, Monday's got a really robust API. Now, they use GraphQL, so it can be a little bit more technical to understand. You might want to have a developer do this for you, but it can be pretty flexible once you understand how GraphQL works. So with all of these options to add your own columns, add your own boards, automate, integrate the API, Monday really lets you take the platform and create what you want out of it. And so this leads us to our conversation about pricing. Now, there's some things that you should know about how pricing works. Number one, again, just as a reminder that Monday CRM is priced on its own. It has its own set of licenses that are not the same as the main Monday WorkOS product. So if you go to the main monday.com website, you're going to want to make sure that you select the right product. Now, here's the part that really frustrates a lot of small companies. When you choose the team size on here, notice that this starts at 3 seats, which means if you are just a solo operator, if you're an entrepreneur and you need a CRM for yourself, you're not able to buy just a single license. You have to buy 3. And same thing with if you have 6 people at your company that need access, then you have to pay for 10 seats. So this tiered way of doing it, yeah, it's pretty inexpensive in general compared to a lot of other CRMs, so it's not the end of the world. But this is something that can be frustrating when you're a smaller company and you're buying in these increments. So you can see that we have 4 different plans to choose from. Basic, Standard, and Pro all have their pricing available. Enterprise, you have to request that. Of course, like any piece of software, if you go monthly, that's going to cost more than if you go yearly, annually, and you're going to be paying less for that per month, but then you're locked in there. Now, if we scroll down, let's take a look at some of the features and how it differentiates. So in the basic plan, it is very basic. You might want this if you're just starting out, but again, you have to pay for 3 licenses for it. And here you don't have some of the really standard functionality, I would think, which is 2-way email integration with Gmail and Outlook. That to me seems just like table stakes for a CRM. So if you just need the ability, something that's a little bit more robust than a spreadsheet, you can do that here with the basic plan. But almost always, I think that you're going to get to the Pro plan before you really get a lot of functionality here. You don't need to necessarily pay for Enterprise, but I think most people are going to find themselves here on the Pro plan. So why do I think most people will end up on the Pro plan? Well, we've got sequences. Remember, if you want to actually send out those emails and wait and send those automatically, you're going to do that here on the Pro plan. Email templates, that's another reason you'd be here. Mass emails. I mean, really, this is a lot of the functionality that I think most people are going to want in a CRM. So where I feel good about this is that really this $28 per seat per month is still considerably less expensive than other CRMs. But yeah, I think for most organizations, you're going to find yourself that you pretty much need to be on that Pro plan. Now, here's what frustrates me a little bit on the Enterprise plan. Sure, multi-level permissions, HIPAA compliance, yep, that makes sense. Put it on Enterprise. But if you want to have mandatory required fields, you need to be on Enterprise to have mandatory fields? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You want to have lead scoring? That seems like something on other CRMs that would be on maybe their second tier probably. So bundling those in along with team goals, it's like you're going to have teams, you're going to have sales teams on the Pro and Standard plan. So if your team wants to have goals, which are quotas, which are for every sales team since ever, if you want to have those quotas, those goals, you need to be on Enterprise. That seems pretty goofy. So I can't say I'm a big fan of some of the features that have been put in the Enterprise plan, but you can definitely get a quote for that if that's something that you're interested in. And then I scrolled down to the more in-depth features here. And again, this just reiterates why you pretty much have to be on Pro. If you're on the customer relationship stuff, look, you get pretty much no features on Basic and Standard. If you want to do quotes, if you want email templates, email tracking and automations, mass emails, tracking of mass emails, if you want Google Calendar sync and email signatures, then you have to be on Pro. So Kind of a no-brainer here. If you're going to do Monday CRM, you're going to want to go with Pro. Okay, let's finish this off by asking the question, who is Monday CRM really for? I think if you're a growing sales organization that needs collaboration features and you like the idea of having a box of Legos, you want to build your sales process your way. You don't care if all the features necessarily come off the shelf. It's just going to work. You're willing to spend some time to massage this and turn it into the right tool for you, then I think Monday is going to be a good fit. If, however, you want to slide your credit card and get this software, the CRM that works for you off the shelf with very little configuration, then this is not going to be the right fit because it takes that extra work to kind of build this out and create your automations the way you want it to function. So there's going to be other CRMs that will be a better fit that you can find in different price ranges if you need something that just kind of works right away. If after watching this video, you find yourself wondering how Monday stacks up to other CRMs and you want to compare them, come check out our website at softwarefinds.com, where we do lots of different reviews and comparisons of CRM products.